In a surprising turn at the end of January 2026, the sci-fi thriller Mercy dethroned James Cameron's Avatar, Fire and Ash after 5 consecutive weekends atop the US box office. Starring Chris Pratt and Rebecca Ferguson, Mercy opened to modest numbers, but the win was enough to knock Avatar from its long-held position. Despite this headline-grabbing #1 debut, the weekend reflected more about the sluggish overall box office than about Mercy's immediate blockbuster appeal. Mercy grossed roughly $11.2 million domestically, while Avatar, Fire and Ash earned about $7 million in its 6th weekend. Overall, the top 10 films combined for only around $44 million, making it one of the weakest weekends of the year. By comparison, during Avatar's December debut, the total box office for the top films easily exceeded $175 million, highlighting the stark slowdown in audience turnout. The winter weather factor. Industry observers noted that severe winter storms across the U.S. played a significant role in the box office lull. Hundreds of theaters from Texas to Maine were forced to close, preventing audiences from seeing the films in theaters and reducing attendance across the board. Analysts described the weekend as one of the slowest in recent memory, underscoring the vulnerability of theatrical releases to unpredictable weather events. Estimates had projected that Mercy might open closer to $12 million under normal circumstances, but the storms pushed its debut slightly lower. In this context, Mercy's #1 placement is as much a product of diminished competition as of its own drawing power. About Mercy. Directed by Timur Bekmambetov, Mercy tells the story of a near-future LAPD detective, Chris Pratt, on trial for the murder of his wife, with the outcome determined by an AI judge. Rebecca Ferguson co-stars in a pivotal role. The film's production budget was around $60 million, and it debuted internationally to roughly $22.8 million from 80 markets outside North America. Critics gave Mercy a mixed reception, with audience scores slightly better than critical ones, and the film received a CinemaScore of B, indicating modest satisfaction but not overwhelming enthusiasm. Despite the low-key debut, the film's opening is enough to place it atop the domestic charts, marking a symbolic victory over a behemoth like Avatar, Fire and Ash. Still, its long-term financial success will hinge on audience retention in the coming weeks and its international performance. Avatar, Fire and Ash's domestic cooling. Although Avatar lost the top spot, it remains a major global performer. Its international revenue has recently crossed the $1 billion mark, and it continues to rake in impressive numbers outside North America. Domestically, it now sits with a total gross in the hundreds of millions, far exceeding most competing films. However, compared with previous entries in the Avatar franchise, Fire and Ash shows signs of diminished U.S. dominance. Earlier installments spent longer stretches at #1, often with higher overall gross both domestically and internationally. This suggests that while the franchise remains culturally significant, the novelty may be waning in its home market. Box office landscape beyond the top 2. Other films maintained respectable runs despite the subdued weekend. Zootopia 2 continued to perform well globally, even in its 9th week, proving that certain family-oriented titles have staying power. Smaller films, including Oscar contenders like Marty Supreme and Hamnet, maintained audience interest, showing that niche and prestige films can find a foothold even in weak market conditions. The mix of blockbuster and specialty films highlights a shifting theatrical landscape. Audiences are increasingly selective, weather disruptions are unpredictable, and early-year box office trends no longer follow historical patterns. Implications for Hollywood. For Mercy, achieving the #1 position is a symbolic win, but with weak overall attendance, the film must rely on strong word-of-mouth and international revenue to recoup its production and marketing costs. Its moderate reception suggests the studio cannot count on it being a long-term box office juggernaut, though the current ranking provides a marketing boost. For Avatar, Fire and Ash, the film remains a global powerhouse. Even as its domestic numbers decline, its international appeal ensures profitability. The franchise's continued influence and cultural resonance are evident, though domestic audiences are showing signs of fatigue compared to the first 2 installments. For the industry, the weekend underscores the vulnerability of theaters to external factors like weather, emphasizing the need for flexible release strategies. Studios may increasingly consider alternative distribution methods, including streaming tie-ins or staggered international releases, to safeguard revenue in unpredictable markets. Final thoughts. While headlines celebrate Mercy's triumph over Avatar, the story beneath the numbers paints a more nuanced picture. The win comes amid a historically weak end of January weekend, marked by winter storms and declining overall attendance. Both films now face divergent paths. Mercy must prove its staying power in the domestic and international markets, while Avatar, Fire and Ash must sustain its global momentum despite a cooling US presence. This weekend serves as a reminder that even the biggest blockbusters are not immune to external factors and changing audience habits, and that success is often relative rather than absolute. In the weeks ahead, industry watchers will closely monitor whether Mercy can hold the top spot under better conditions, and whether Avatar can continue to leverage its international appeal to offset domestic declines.